To summarize, there are several big issues. First, in the first example in which we had to compare two projects and pick the best one, we saw how cash flows after our cutoff, the required payback period, are being completely ignored. And so we are essentially biased towards shorter term projects. We are always forced to accept a project that's, a very short term project that pays back within our required payback period, right? And so that creates a problem that we may be rejecting a project which should instead be accepted. Then we also had our last example in which we saw how there may be several payback periods. Which one do we use? Because depending on which one you use, we would be either accepting or rejecting our project. Again, it becomes very unclear. Then the whole cutoff, the whole required payback period, or the so-called pre-specified payback time, where does that number come from? That's the number that's given, right? It's kind of arbitrary, because if we change it a little bit, then, the whole decision would be different. For example, maybe our cutoff is 3 years, but the actual payback period is 3.5. So you would say reject. But if the arbitrary cutoff was not 3 years but 4 years, we would accept. So why 3 years? Why not 4? Right? It's kind of an arbitrary number. But a bigger problem is the way we calculate the actual payback period. We simply add up all future numbers and we stop when we reach the initial investment. So we are not doing any sort of discounting. We are completely ignoring the whole time value of money. And that's technically something that we should not be doing in finance. Advantages, it's pretty easy to use. You don't discount anything. By the way, the textbook talks about the so-called discounted payback period approach, where you add together the discounted values. Then this last problem, disadvantage, is no longer there, but everything else is still remains. Another advantage is you can see that, well, why is it a big problem that we are ignoring the time value of money? It might be okay if you're working with a small scale project for which, the whole discounting will make a difference of maybe a few cents. It's not even worth it. You can also argue in favor of ignoring cash flows in distant future, because you can say that, well, the future is uncertain. Let's just ignore everything in distant future. You can also say that, why is it a problem that we are always going to be forced to pick something short term that pays back within our required payback? You might say that, well, we are done with one quick project, we move on to the next one. Then we move on to the next one after just a few years, and so on. So this approach is biased towards liquidity.